So now come to the double circuit circulation. There is two, that is pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. Pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation, right? Now what will happen, the flow of blood in pulmonary circulation, the flow of blood from heart to lungs and back to the heart, right, that is called the pulmonary circulation through the pulmonary vein, right? And when the systemic circulation, now course of the blood from the left side of the heart, right, that is left atrium to left ventricle to systemic artery, then arch of aorta, then arch of aorta, then their branches, right? And again back to the heart, that is called the systemic circulation, right? So on the basis of that, we can say double circuit circulation are of two types, that is incomplete double circuit circulation and complete double circuit circulation. Right, what will happen in incomplete double circuit circulation? In incomplete double circuit circulation, examples is the amphibians and the reptiles. Heart is three chambered. Heart is three chambered in both amphibians and reptiles according to NCERT, right? In amphibians, because interventricular septum is not formed here, right, and in reptiles it is incompletely formed, so that's why NCERT considered it as three chambered heart, right? Two extra accessory chambers is present in the amphibians, that is the sinus venosus and sinus venosus and truncus arteriosus. In reptiles, only sinus venosus is present. Truncus arteriosus is absent. Right, three chambered heart is present in both. That's why it is incomplete. Right, when we talk about the complete double circuit circulation, so birds, examples are the birds and the, that is aves and mammals. Right, so this is all about the double circuit circulation, single circuit circulation. Clear? Now come to the human circulatory system, that is we will talk about the heart now. We know that heart is mesodermal in origin, right? It is mesodermally mesodermal in origin, situated in the thoracic cavity, right? It is situated in the thoracic cavity, just in between the two lungs, right? In between the two lungs, or we can say in the mediastinal space between the two lungs, right? Clear? Situation between two lungs. Clear? It's hollow fibromuscular organ. When we talk about the length, so length is the 12 centimeter on an average, as we say that the our heart gain its actual size in the age of 18 to 20, right? And our heart is just like the size of our fist, Clear? So simply feast. So 12 centimeter is length, width is 9 centimeter, right? And so when we talk about the structure of the heart, there are some chambers like the atria, the ventricle, right? Atria, ventricle, and the outermost covering of the heart, which is known as, which is called the pericardium. Outermost covering of heart called the pericardium, right? Same as that, the pericardium, pericardial cavity, pericardium is the bilayer of peritoneum, and visceral pericardium, parietal pericardium, and in both, in between both, pericardial cavity is present, which is filled with the pericardial fluid, which is filled with the pericardial fluid, right, which is filled with the pericardial fluid. Clear? So it prevents the moisture, it prevents the from the external shocks. Clear? Now what will happen? Come to the atria and ventricle. When we talk about the atria, that is the plural, right, that is the chamber. The wall of atria is thinner than the wall of ventricle. That means the wall of ventricle is the thicker wall, thickest wall. Clear? And even in atria there are 3 openings, right? In atria there are 3 openings, that is SVC, IVC and coronary sinus, right? SVC is guarded by the Haversian valve. IVC is guarded by the Eustachian valve, and coronary sinus is guarded by the Thebesian valve, right? When we talk about the ventricles, the wall of ventricle is 3 times thicker. The wall of ventricle is 3 times thicker than the wall of atria. Right? Pulmonary trunk and aorta, that question asked from that pulmonary trunk. Arises from right ventricle. Aorta arises from left ventricle, right? That aorta is divided into 3 parts: ascending aorta, descending aorta, right? Ascending aorta, arch of aorta, then descending aorta. Clear? When we you can see that in the diagram which is given in NCERT, right? Now what will happen? In between that pulmonary trunk and aorta, there is a ligamentum arteriosum is present. Ligamentum arteriosum is present. What is that ligamentum arteriosum? It is the remnant of ductus arteriosus. In fetus body, ductus arteriosus is present, and just before the birth that opening is closed, and the remnant is here, which is known as the ligamentum arteriosum. So we can memorize is like that: ductus arteriosus is present in fetus and ligamentum arteriosus is found in the adults as a remnant of the ductus arteriosus, right? So now come to the next. We know that the heart is made up of its muscular layer, that is the epicardium, myocardium and the endocardium, right? And the myocardium is the thickest layer, right? And one more thing, the question asked is the thickest wall of ventricle is, so the left ventricle wall is the thickest. Left ventricle has the thickest wall. Right? It has the thickest wall. Clear? Now what will happen? There are some valves also present in the heart, right? It's just a tentative diagram. See, right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. In right side, there is a valve is present which controls the flow of blood from atria to ventricle, right? Or we can say which prevent the backward flow of the blood, right? These valves present the backward flow of the blood. So now there are two kinds of valves, that is bicuspid valve and tricuspid valve, right? Bicuspid valve and the tricuspid valve. This bicuspid valve, bi that means two cusps, right? It is also known as the mitral valve. It is also known as the mitral valve. Remember this thing, it is always present in the left side, right? Left side of the heart. And tricuspid valves are also present, always present in right side of the heart, right? And the function is to prevent the backward flow of the blood. Same as that, in internal structure of the ventricles, there are some special fibrous cords are present, right? There are some special fibrous cords are present. These are called the columnae corneae, column-like structures, right, with the papillary muscles. in the wall of ventricle, and some special fibrous cords. These fibrous cords get attached with these are called the chorda tendineae. Actually, what is the function of the chorda tendineae? They prevents the bicuspid and tricuspid valve from collapsing back into the atria at the time of powerful contraction, right? At the time of powerful ventricular contraction. So, chorda tendineae extends from valves to the columnae corneae. These are the columnae corneae, which are just looks like the columns, right? And chorda tendineae attached with the other end, one end with the valves and other end with the papillary muscles and the chorda, and which is supported by that columnae corneae. Clear? Now there are some another valves also, that is the semilunar valves, right, which are present in the aorta, pulmonary trunk and aorta respectively, right, pulmonary trunk and aorta, and called the pulmonary semilunar valve and the aortic semilunar valve respectively, right. So what is the function of these semilunar valves? These valves allow the free and forward flow of the blood, right, and they prevent any backward flow. Clear? If that semilunar valve get injured, then some hissing noise is appear. Clear? So this is all about the valves. Now, when we talk about the working of the heart, we know that contraction of heart is called systole. Relaxation of heart is called diastole. Right? So contraction of heart is called the systole and diastole. So in heart at right side, upper lateral side of the heart, at right side, there is a nodal tissue is present, which is called the SA node, right. Here AV node is present, here AV node is present, and from this that bundle of muscular fiber is released, which is called the bundle of His, right, and that bundle of His is divided into two branches here like that, right, and from these branches fine fibers is retrieved and they attach with the wall of the ventricles, and these fibers are called the Purkinje fibers. These fibers are called the Purkinje fibers, right. This is called the bundle of His and these fibers are called the Purkinje fibers, right. So what will happen when we talk about the working? So SA node generate a powerful ventricular wave of contraction, SA node to AV node to bundle of His to Purkinje fibers, right, and Purkinje fibers to the wall of ventricles, right. So this is the path of contraction. Clear? This is the path of the transmission of the impulse, which is induced by the SA node. That's why that SA node is called the pacemaker, because it make the heartbeat. AV node is called the pace setter, right? AV node is called the pace setter. Clear? If that SA node get injured or damaged, in that case we will implant the artificial pacemaker, right? We will implant the artificial pacemaker in that case in the heart, in which we use a lithium halide battery. This is a question of pre-medical, in which we use the lithium halide battery. Right? Two electrodes and wire of lead. Clear? So we implant it in our body. And one more thing, that is a question of pre-medical actually, right? That lead wire is used in it. Clear? And one electrode insert in the right atrium, and another one is the right ventricle. Clear? So in that manner we generate the heartbeat and maintain the pace of the heartbeat, right? Now what is heartbeat? That is the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the heart. When we talk about the normal heartbeat of a person, right? Normal heartbeat of a person, actually it is present in range, but on an average NCRT takes the 72 times per minute. Our heart beats 72 times per minute, right? But its range is fixed actually in 860 to 90 times per minute, right? But now what will happen if there are two conditions, that is the tachycardia and another one is the bradycardia. Tachycardia, when heart rate increases more than 90 times per minute, and when heart rate decreases than 60 times per minute, then it is called the bradycardia, and when it is more than 90 times per minute, then it is called the tachycardia, right? And on the beating is actually beating is the inherent capacity of the heart, right? So on the base, and one more thing, heart of a resting human being pumps the amount of blood, that is the total amount of blood which is equivalent to the total amount of blood present in the body. That means we can say per minute 5 to 5.5 liter blood is passed out from the heart, right? Clear? When same as that, there is a formula to retrieve the cardiac output. COP, cardiac output, is stroke volume into heartbeat per minute, right? Stroke volume, that is the amount of blood pumped by each ventricle, and its range is 70 to 80 times 70 to 80 ml per minute. So we can take 70 here, right? And heartbeat per minute is 72. To total is, when we calculate it, it is approximately 5040 ml, right? 5040 ml. So per minute the cardiac output is that. Clear? Clear? This is the cardiac output. So on the basis of that, the type of heartbeat, there are two kinds of animals. First one is the neurogenic heart, and second one is the myogenic heart, right? And the heartbeats are called the neurogenic heartbeat and the myogenic heartbeat. Human heart is the myogenic heart, right? Neurogenic heart is initiated by the nerve impulse which is coming from a ganglion, nerve ganglion, right? And if the connection of these kind of animals' heart is disconnected by their brain, then their heart stops working, right? But in case of myogenic heart, right, which is present in humans also, right? Heartbeat is initiated by a patch of modified muscle, heart muscle itself, right? That's why if we disconnect the heart from and keep it outside of the body, right, after that our heart will be beat continuously for some time, right? And if we provide the environment, external environment, just like the internal environment inside the body, that means the proper nutrition and all the electrolytes and all these things in proper manner, so our heart can be beat for a long time, for so many years, right? Clear? So neurogenic heartbeat, neurogenic heart is present in some annelids and some arthropods. Myogenic heart is present in the molluscans and the vertebrates, right? Now come to the regulation of heartbeat. When we talk about the regulation, there are two types of regulation. First one is the neural regulation, and second one is the hormonal, right? And in neural regulation, what will happen? There are two centers. First one is the cardio inhibitor and second is the cardio accelerator, right? When we talk about the cardio inhibitor, as its name suggests, actually when the heartbeat is increased more and more and more, right, so that cardio inhibitor inhibits the frequency of the heartbeat, right? What will happen in that? That cardio inhibitor is connected with the vagus nerve, right? It is connected with the vagus nerve, which carries the parasympathetic nerve fibers, It is connected with vagus, right? It carries the parasympathetic nerve fiber, right? It carries the parasympathetic nerve fiber. So it reduces the excessive initiation of the heartbeat, same as that the cardio accelerator, right? It carries the sympathetic nerve fibers. It carries the sympathetic nerve fibers. It carries the sympathetic nerve fibers, which enhances the activity of the heart, or we can say when the heartbeat get reduced, or in case of bradycardia condition, that cardio accelerator to maintain the heartbeat, it increases the heart rate, right? It increases the heart rate, so it accelerates the sympathetic nerve fiber to increase the heart rates, right? So this is the neural regulation. When we talk about the hormonal regulation, so there are two hormones which control the cardiac activity, which are known as the catecholamine, right? Which is known as the catecholamine, or we can say the adrenaline and second one is the noradrenaline, right? Adrenaline and noradrenaline. Adrenaline is emergency hormone, right? It is released at the time of fear, fight and fright. It is also released, it also increases the heartbeat, but due to some pathological conditions, right? So emergency hormone, it is called the adrenaline hormone, which is also known as the epinephrine, and noradrenaline is known as the norepinephrine. Now come to the important part of the circulatory system, that is the cardiac cycle, right? In short, we just revise it. Cardiac cycle, that it consists of one heartbeat, right? It consists of one heartbeat, that is, we can say the one systole and one diastole, right? One systole and one diastole. So the contraction phase is known as the systole, the relaxation phase is known as the diastole, and the time duration of the cardiac cycle is the reverse ratio of the heartbeat per minute, right? It is the reverse ratio of the heartbeat per minute. That means reverse ratio of the heartbeat per minute. So what does that mean? That is 60 divided by the 72, to so total that is 0.8 seconds, right? 0.8 seconds. So the duration of cardiac cycle is 0.8 second. Clear? Cardiac cycle, there are 4 stages of cardiac cycle. First one is the atrial systole. atrial diastole, ventricular systole, ventricular diastole, right? 0.1 second, 0.7 seconds, total 0.8 second, right? Then again 0.3 seconds, 0.5 seconds, right? Again 0.8 seconds, and actually in NCERT only three, they consider only atrial systole, ventricular systole and the joint diastole, right? That is the difference of that, clear? That is the joint diastole. So simply the joint diastole is the longest phase of the cardiac cycle, clear? We can say because atrial systole 0.1 second, ventricular systole 0.3 seconds and joint diastole 0.4 seconds, right? The joint diastole is that particular time duration of heart at which the atria and ventricle both are in relaxed condition, right? There is no contraction in atria and ventricle, right? So when we total it, that is 0.8 second, right? Clear? We can calculate it like that or we can calculate it like that also, right? Now come to the when atrial systole, what will happen? In atrial systole, SA node generate wave of contraction, right? Then what will happen? SA node generate wave of contraction, clear? It contracts, so by the contraction of that, bicuspid and tricuspid valves open, bicuspid, tricuspid open, right? And blood fill into the ventricle, filling in ventricle, right? In atrial, beginning of ventricular systole, or we can say the atrial diastole, right? Beginning of the ventricular systole, bicuspid and tricuspid valves get closed here, right? And due to the closing of these valves, first heart sound is produced. First heart sound is produced here, which is known as the lub, right? Which is known as the lub. So first heart sound is produced due to the closing of bicuspid and tricuspid valve. This is the question of pre-medical, so memorize it properly. When the a heart sound is produced only by the closing of the valves, not the opening, right? It is only by the closing of the valves, right? Now come to the completion of the ventricular systole. What will happen in that condition? When ventricular systole occurs, that means the contraction of ventricle occurs, so blood rush out towards the pulmonary semilunar valve and the aortic semilunar valve, and semilunar valves open, right? They gets open, right? Now what will happen? Exactly, right? Semilunar valves open in the completion of ventricular systole, right? Now beginning of the ventricular diastole, beginning of the ventricular diastole. Now what will happen? Beginning of the ventricular diastole, as its name suggests, the ventriculars comes in the relaxed state. That means here the semilunar valves get closed, right? These semilunar valves get closed in beginning of the ventricular diastole, and due to that, second heart sound is produced, which is known as the dub, right? The second heart sound is produced known as the dub. So first heart sound is produced during the closing of bicuspid and tricuspid valve, and second heart sound is produced during the closing of the semilunar valve, right? So this is all about the cardiac cycle, and the last stage is the completion of the ventricular diastole, right? That is complete of the ventricular diastole. That means again as pressure decreases in the ventricles and stimulations again goes, we are empty now, right? So bicuspid and tricuspid valves open due to the pressure gradient, and what will happen? The blood is filling in the ventricle through the atria. Clear? And again, so this cycle is continuously occurs. That's why it is called the cardiac cycle, right? So this is all about the cardiac cycle. Now come to the blood pressure. Blood pressure, what is that blood pressure or BP? It is measured by an instrument which is known as the sphygmomanometer, right? Which is known as the sphygmomanometer. In general language, you know it as the BP instrument, right? In the form of BP instrument. So now what will happen here? In sphygmomanometer, that is the blood pressure. Blood pressure is the pressure which is exerted by the blood in the wall of the arteries, right? That is the blood pressure exerted by the flowing blood in the wall of the arteries, right? There are two types of blood pressure, that is systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. Systolic pressure, normal systolic pressure is 120 mm of Hg, and diastolic pressure is 80 mm of Hg. It's on an average actually. Clear? Right? So this is BP. When we by the pressure of SP and DP, when we retrieve the pulse pressure, so there is formula, pulse pressure is equal to the systolic pressure minus diastolic pressure, right? So 120 minus 80, that is 40 mm of Hg. Pulse pressure is 40 mm of Hg, right? So this is all about the blood pressure. Now come to the ECG, that is electrocardiograph, right? Electrocardiograph. This is the machine actually, right? This is the machine. It's not documentation, and when we talk about the documentation, that is the electrocardiogram, right? This is the documentation, and this is the machine instrument through which we record the graphic record of the electric current produced by the excitation of the cardiac muscles, right? That instrument is used to record the changes, that is the electrocardiograph, right? There are 3 waves of ECG. This is the P wave, QRS, and T wave, and the another one is here, that is the U. Clear? But you have to know that only P, QRS and T, right? P is the downward small deflection. Clear? P wave. It is produced during the atrial depolarization, right? It is produced during the atrial depolarization. That means at the time of contraction of atria, right? That means at the time of contraction of atria, P wave generate, right? QRS wave at the time of ventricular contraction or ventricular depolarization, and T wave ventricular repolarization. A line is marked in NCERT that T wave T wave appears at the end of the systole, right? It appears at the end of the systole. Clear? So simply these waves are present, which P wave represents the atrial depolarization, QRS complex or QRS wave represents the ventricular depolarization, and T wave represents the ventricular repolarization, right? Come to the blood vessels. Right, what are the blood vessels? There are three blood vessels majorly, that is the arteries, veins and the capillaries, right? Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins carries blood towards the heart, right? And capillaries, the capillaries are the actual site for the exchange of the water and the chemicals between the blood. Clear? So you just have to learn it. Clear? And the larger vessel which provide the blood supply to these, they are called the vasa vasorum. These are called the vasa vasorum, right?